Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is January of 2019, and that means Kingdom Hearts 3 is almost here. I can't believe it, it's finally happening! This game has been toying and teasing with my heart for over 10 years, and the anticipation cannot be at a higher level. As somebody who has been with this series since day one, it's needless to say that I'm excited for this game. But for so many reasons. I could sit down all day long and tell you why Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorite franchises of all time, why the combat in Kingdom Hearts 2 is absolutely 10 out of 10 amazing, why the music puts me in a whole spectrum of emotions, etc, etc. But nah, you've heard that all before. Instead, something I don't quite hear often enough is the discussion of the story of Kingdom Hearts, at least aside from bashing it or desperately trying to explain it to people. I know, it's a fucking mess, and to an outsider, I can see why it's extremely intimidating to get into this series, especially when you have all of this going on. But there are actually people who enjoy this beautiful trash. They do exist, and they look like this. Wait, no, hang on. That's better. However, I'm not gonna sit you down here and try to convince you that the plot of these games is anything close to intelligent or even good, nor am I gonna try to explain it all to you. There's not enough time for me, and I'm sure you could just go do any of the hundreds of other YouTube videos that have done so already, much better than I possibly could. Like this one. Bam, there you go. Got some time to kill? There's your homework. Though to be fair, this franchise is meant to be experienced, not explained. Trying to cram over a decade's worth of story content is bound to overwhelm and confuse people who don't give themselves the time to process it. Like seriously, you could just pick up any of the collections that have been made over the last few years. They're all cheap and well worth the price, and if you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't play through the entire series before going to KH3, but hey, that's none of my business, I guess. No, instead, I'm going to be telling you why the story matters, and why the finality of Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be such a relief after all the years of cock-teasing for longtime fans such as myself. I feel like the best place to start here is to define the two different schools of fans when it comes to this narrative. On the one hand, you got the people who are in it for just the surface level entertainment. The people who just want to see the Disney and the Final Fantasy stuff. Hey look, it's Elsa! Remember that hot shit? Bye now! And you know, I'm not hating on that kind of mindset. It's perfectly okay if you just want your crossover fanfic. It's exactly why I played the first game all those years ago. I think there's something inherently appealing about crossovers, or just taking an existing property and turning it on its head, giving it that air of personal flavor. I mean, come on, there's gotta be a reason why Smash Bros. Is one of the biggest franchises in all of gaming, and I'm sure it's not because of its online. Please, Sakurai, fix this shit! Holy fuck! I mean, what else is there to say? I know a lot of people are a big fan of the Disney stuff, but I'm pretty much indifferent. Respect where respect is due, though. The devs really put a lot of effort into the game. For the most part, all of the original voice actors reprise their roles, the film adaptations are as faithful as you can get after injecting them with whatever jack-off you'll be fighting at the end, and they make sure the art style and environments feel distinct and identifiable enough to the films that they're based on. But that's just your hook. It's what gets people attracted to playing a single game, not, oh my god, look at this, holy shit, how do I even pronounce that? Nah. To make a decade-long franchise, you gotta have a reason for people to want to come back, and that's where the bulk of this discussion is gonna take place. Everyone knows that the Disney shit doesn't actually matter to the overarching narrative of Kingdom Hearts. Sure, some big plot elements occasionally take place in the Disney world, but for the most part, the Disney aspect is pretty much filler content for these games. Despite the series wearing its crossover fanfiction appeal on its sleeves, the games actually try to string along a proper story, and that's what people are so excited about when they see this hot mess. I am conflicted, and I do not know whether to be sad or aroused. Step on me! To try to sell somebody on the appeal of the actual story of Kingdom Hearts, it's a very difficult task. Like, I've maybe spent 2 whole weeks thinking of stuff to say for this segment, and I'm afraid it still might not be enough. It might not be something that I can accurately express to somebody who doesn't already agree with the mindset, but I'll try my best. On the one hand, you run the complete range of emotions throughout all of these characters and their stories. You get attached and you feel for them throughout their struggle. I legitimately start tearing up every time I hear the 0.2 rendition of Simple and Clean while watching this intro. It's got its hooks in my heart that deep, and it all has to do with the context that these games create for these characters. But like, how the fuck does anyone take this franchise seriously when it's got moments like this?
ridiculous!
The best kind of comparison that I can make is like watching two freight trains full of fireworks about to crash into each other. You know it's gonna be terrible. People are going to die, but it's gonna be really cool to look at. These games take themselves way too seriously, and while it definitely works at times, there's a limit to how much an audience can take without heavily questioning it. Once you start retconning stuff with time travel, you know you've run out of ideas. It's ridiculous, it's hyperbolistic, and I love every second of it. You can tell me every minute of every day that Kingdom Hearts' story is dumb, that Nomura is making this shit up as he's going along, and I'll agree with you the entire way. But don't you dare try to convince me that this isn't the coolest goddamn anime you've ever watched. Laser fights, check. Flips and shit, check. Dumbass monologues about friendship and the abstract concepts of good and evil, check. Mysterious villains with matching outfits but different powers and personalities, you bet your ass! You all know by now that I fall hook, line, and sinker for the edgelord aesthetic, so don't act surprised when I tell you that Organization 13 tickles my dick like, I don't know, make up some dumb comparison. Xehanort and his band of also Xehanorts are playing 5th dimensional chess with me. They're 10 steps ahead of the game, while I'm just sitting here thinking, damn, this chick's got a nice back. You're trying to tell me that this guy, who grows up to be this guy, takes over this guy's body and turns him into a Heartless so he can go fuck with this guy, remember this part because it's gonna be on the test, then goes over to take over this guy's body only to get jobbed while this guy, who is this guy's walking corpse, fucks around with these jackasses also just to also get jobbed so that this guy can come back years later only to find out that this guy is actually a time traveler so that all these guys can be the true final boss. You can't make this shit up! And I know it seems like it's convoluted for the sake of being convoluted, and that spreading this narrative out over multiple games, over multiple consoles, is the worst possible thing that you can do for people trying to follow your story, but you know I like it, so fuck you, okay? And it's not just about how ridiculous the story can get. I know me and a lot of other fans love to go on about how dumb the story is, that it's about laughing at a dumpster fire, but there are legitimate moments that are so moving, so relatable, that you can't help but feel committed to these characters, that you want to see how their stories play out. Let me give you an example. Kingdom Hearts 1 is such a good standalone story, and probably the game that gets the most praise for its narrative. It does an excellent job at setting up its main characters, their motivations, their desires, and their personalities that grow and develop over all of these games. While it's not the most interesting tutorial to play through, the Destiny Island segment sets up this story so perfectly. It gives you time to understand Sora, Riku, and Kairi, learn what they want from life, understand their genuine friendship, their struggles, and what they do to overcome them, so that when shit finally starts to go down, you have that connection to them. You want to see Sora reunite with his friends. You understand why Riku is so obsessed with power, and why he's willing to do some pretty stupid shit and believe some pretty manipulative people. Like, these are believable characters. These are things that a young, ambitious, and gullible teenager is prone to doing, so that when his redemption arc finally happens, it's all the more satisfying. And outside of the main cast and crew, you also have some pretty heart-wrenching stuff going on. I mean some full-on, deep, tragic, emotionally destroying shit. Characters like Roxas and Aqua have to deal with legitimate suffering for what seems like their entire lives. Just trying to fathom the concept of not having a heart, that your being as an existence is not whole, that you are never meant to be, is just depressing to think about. And such a relatable character trait for a young teenager to have. This girl, this genuine angel, she has literally done nothing other than pick up after the messes that these two dumbasses create, and her reward for faithfully following and protecting her friends is an eternity in this world's equivalent to hell. I could go on, but the point I'm trying to make here is that good people, characters that you spend days and days developing with and connecting to, have to live with what seems like endless suffering. A big point that Kingdom Hearts 3 is trying to sell itself on is that Sora, this goodest of boys, is finally going to save everyone. There are so many people who are connected to this young lad, whether he knows about them or not, and all of these lives are depending on him to finally put an end to Xehanort's schemes. It's so much of a burden to bear, and judging by the trailers that we have so far, Sora might just be joining the ranks of endless emotional destruction. And let me tell you, I cannot wait to see this boy finally break. He's had it too good for too long! And lastly, I think something that often goes unsaid about this series is its themes. More than just the whole light versus darkness and keys and hearts and other bullshit that they throw down your throat, there's a lot of subtext that's going on in these games that doesn't get quite as much attention. The idea that you can be so much more than whatever you were supposed to do. That no one is below the concept of redemption. The notion that even being strong in body and mind aren't always enough to do the right thing. That you can always be doing the right thing and still end up failing and suffering. That literally every being, even you and even me and even Donald Duck, deserves to be happy. Believe it or not, there are quite a few things that get said in between the slapstick. Don't believe me? Go ahead. There's still some time to replay these games before Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out. And it might be hard to notice, I grant you, but if the series didn't get real like this from time to time, I wouldn't be here spilling it all out for you. I wouldn't even care in the first place. And that pretty much covers it, but I still feel like maybe I didn't quite sell it enough, and I don't think I ever could. Half of the point that I'm trying to make here is that while the story of Kingdom Hearts is important, that it's a big reason why so many people are hyped up for KH3, it's because the series gives the audience the time that it needs to digest its content, that you have time to process it all, make your own assumptions about the world and the rules that the universe follows, that people are really anticipating seeing what happens next in comparison to their expectations. Some of the most fun that you can have with a game is speculation about what's going to happen in future titles, and Kingdom Hearts feeds into that addiction all the time. From secret, unknown super bosses that tie into future titles, to hidden secret endings that introduce new characters who don't even say a word and get people talking about them. Something I don't hear often enough, and this isn't just about games, it extends to movies and television shows, is that while binging on content has its own appeal, it can't be done with every work of fiction. There's a legitimately different experience to have when you stick through the work during its release schedule, when you're given the week or month, or in Kingdom Hearts' case, years of time to understand what you're experiencing. Even if it's just playing through the campaigns of these games, it's enough time to process it, and it offers an experience that just reading a plot summary can never emulate. So I urge you, even if there's not much time left, or even if you're finding this video years later and just have a passing fancy in the Kingdom Hearts series and just want to know what all the hubbub is about, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here and just say, play the games, in release order, and see for yourself. Don't trust my word, don't trust anyone else, and may your heart be your guiding key. That's the thing they say in the game, it'll make sense, I promise. I think the best word to describe how Kingdom Hearts treats itself is innocent. It feels like Nomura genuinely believes that he's writing the deepest, most epic saga of all time. But like, when you kill off Goofy and expect me to take this shit seriously? Nuh-uh.
They'll pay for this.
Look at him! Michael Mouse is in a pitch black coat with a dead-ass serious face while he's saying all this. And that's how the series is so charming. If you go into these games with a light heart and find room to laugh at something embarrassing, you'll have a great time with the series. If you try going into it expecting it to be the dumbest, poorly written piece of shit ever made, well, but hey, you might get a pleasant surprise when you find 1 or 2 characters to be a bit more relatable than you first expected. You really shouldn't go into it with any expectations, because Nomura is a master at breaking them. We might have some hints and clues from the trailers, but I promise you Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to throw a ton of curveballs at you. There's no knowing who's going to make it out alive. Kingdom Hearts is a commitment. It's that one fanfiction that you read when you're a teenager that you stuck with till the end, even after the self-inserts Mary Sue, just because you've already invested your attention into it for so long. It's not a series you go playing only 1 or 2 games and expect to understand what's going on in this finale of a finale. Finality is what's hyping up this game to the extent that it is. It's an end of an era, it's closure, It's why the narrative matters, and it's the appeal of Kingdom Hearts' mess of a story. Thank you all so much for joining me once again. I know this video was a bit shorter than usual, despite taking just as long to make. I just wanted to keep my thoughts concise, and I wanted to know if this shorter format is a bit more digestible for you guys. You might have noticed a slight increase in the audio quality of my voice. I just got a brand new microphone over the holidays, and I'm loving the shit out of it. If you have any suggestions for me, please be sure to let me know in the comments down below. You can also follow me on Twitter, where I frequently post updates on my future videos. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's another little-known game out there that really needs its time in the sun.